Welcome back to another video. This time I'm looking at something a bit different. I've picked up a TomTom Sat Nav. This is the Go Navigator 2nd generation, so I thought I would make a video on it just to give you an idea of what you can expect. I'll be doing an unboxing and showing you some of the menus, but I'm going to need to spend a bit more time with this before I can do a full review. Inside the box you have this pull-out poster and leaflet. In the corner you have a QR code. It's really just a basic setup guide, a sort of quick start guide as such. This version that I have is the 6-inch screen. There is a 7-inch version. Peel off the cover on the back, you'll see there's the contact points and the USB-C port. Other items that are included are the USB-C cable. This one has a right angle on it. This is the standard USB charger that they give you. That just has a single port. Here's your windscreen mount. Again, that has the magnetic function with the contact points on it. You'll see the USB port on the underside. And of course you can rotate it around with the ball joint. It's pretty stiff, but it does seem to hold quite firmly. This has a rotary lock system on it, so you just twist it to fully lock it into position. The magnetic holder seems quite firm. It just snaps into place. I really don't see that coming off easily, and I haven't had any issues so far. As you can hear, we get the classic TomTom startup sound. Other than selecting the basic information such as your language and country, you can go into the vehicle and pick the type of car that you're using. The reason this is here is for the live updates with the petrol stations. And the rest of the setup is pretty straightforward in terms of just agreeing to the terms and conditions. You can also decide if you want to give them any feedback or information. You can set the Bluetooth up later on and also the Wi-Fi. We'll talk about some of the menu settings. Of course, you have your search up there in the top left-hand side. This does work with GPS coordinates and it will work with postcodes, just in case you're wondering. The voice control has been around for quite a while on these devices, but hopefully they've improved it a bit over the years. I found it a bit hit and miss, to be honest, with many of these devices, including built-in ones on some cars. It is fairly limited in terms of its use, but it can be handy because obviously you don't want to be touching this when you're driving along, and you're not supposed to be. Moving on to the main settings menu, here we can of course tweak some of the display and options. This one comes with the full maps of Europe, but the higher end model covers the world as far as I'm aware. One of the improvements that they have seemed to have done over the previous generation is increase the RAM from half a gig up to 2 gigabytes. So everything seems to be a bit more responsive and faster. And I believe that the hardware is shared across all of the devices, although the entry model, they do have that in a 5-inch or 6-inch display. Another feature they have added is the visual cues, and this didn't seem that interesting at the start when I looked at it, but out and about driving I find it quite useful, particularly if you're at busy junctions. You also get warnings for speed cameras, and this does seem to have a database of fixed cameras. With the included subscription though, you do get additional information on those, including the mobile units. Whilst it's not a huge feature on its own, I do quite like that. You have the sidebar, which TomTom are quite well known for. You can also make that a bit bigger if you want to. Although there is a reasonable amount of customization on this, particularly for things like colours and the type of map that you like. Using previous Garmin units, they tend to have more options with regards to the visual side of things. For example, you can replace the arrow with a car or a truck or different colours and things like that. Whereas with the TomTom, you're just sort of stuck with that arrow. To be honest, it really doesn't bother me that much. Problems I've noticed with different units and Google Maps is that the routing isn't always the best. In fact, I was really unhappy with the last unit I had. Would often take me down dirt tracks and bad roads really that you really wouldn't want to go down. I remember one time it even told me to leave a main road to go off of that onto a very poor quality minor road. I'm going to see how the TomTom does with that. I don't expect perfection, but it is one area where many of these devices do have problems. A lot of people would say that you don't need to have one of these devices anymore, you can just use your phone. And that is completely true. You can, of course, download apps from different brands and makers to do the same thing as this, and TomTom do offer an app. As I don't have navigation in my car, I just find it more useful to have a dedicated device. You're going to know if you want something like this or not, or you're quite happy to use your phone. If you have an older car, you may have one built in, but perhaps you're not happy with it. They're still worth looking at in some cases. I'll be able to give you a better idea on this when I have more extensive use of it. But so far I can say that it's definitely better at route planning than the Garmin. Unlike the older ones which you had to connect to a computer to update, this one can do it completely on its own. The cover on this is glass, the same as you would get on a phone. That's not a screen protector on there, that is just the factory covering that they put on, which I forgot to take off. Couple of points to note with this. The first is that if you're looking to buy the Navigator, the older version is still out there and it is easily identified by the micro USB port. This version is quite a few improvements over the previous one, so I would skip on the older version. This is a quick comparison of the 3 up-to-date models that TomTom have. And you'll be able to see that there are some differences. For example, the base model, the Classic, that doesn't have the option for the live information services. Another difference is the Classic does not support voice control. Not much difference between the Navigator and the Superior in terms of features, but it does have the options for caravans and trailers, and you get some trip information as well. As usual, do shop around on prices, you might find some deals. There's no expandable memory, so it's just built in, although it does seem to be enough. You won't be able to update all of the maps, so you should just update the ones which you're using. Doesn't require a lot of power, so you should be able to use it with any USB port that you have in a car. I bought a 3-meter cable, USB-C to A, with the right angle, so that I could fit it to the car and then route the cable around, hide it around the dashboard and under the glove box. You don't have to use the included lead if you don't want to, but do get the right angle cable because that will allow you to mount it lower down. The screen is massively improved next to the Garmin, but that is a much older unit. That's a 5-inch versus a 6-inch display. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments section. And I look forward to seeing you in future videos.